Good morning. Today is Thursday, December 5th, 2024. Alongside the trauma and the grief and the loss and the uncertainty since October 7th, and connected to it, are innumerable instances of nobility, selflessness, and creative genius, especially in Israel. It's true all around the world, but especially in Israel. Creative genius in figuring out how to help more people better. So today I want to share part of an interview that Daniel Gordis did with Dr. Naama Halevi Davidov. Dr. Davidov is in finance in Israel for over 25 years. She takes technology companies through global expansion. She has a CPA, a PhD in strategy, an MBA, a BA in accounting and economics from Tel Aviv University. She's very, very high up in the financial world in Israel. She serves on the board of several NASDAQ publicly traded companies, and she's a member of the board of trustees of an organization called Assure the Children. And that's what we're going to discuss today. Assure for the children. Because in the wake of the horrific, barbaric terror attacks on October 7th last year, over 40 children were left orphans with both of their parents killed. Assure for the Children is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to providing support for these young individuals. And their mission is to establish a trust fund for each child that is left without any parents, ensuring that these children, as they grow up over the next 30 years, and they're faced with the daunting challenges of being orphans, that they will have the resources they need to help them build a secure and bright future. So Dr. Davidov is a woman. She has 4 children. A daughter is 22, 2 sons who are soldiers, a bar mitzvah boy, and they live in Tel Aviv. Before October 7th, she was the CFO of a cybersecurity company, and she sits on the boards of several public corporations. And she says, by a couple of weeks into the war, we started hearing stories that there are kids that are left without either parent. And it wasn't very organized. Things were very chaotic, as we all remember. And it took a couple of months, she says, to reach a final list of about 40 children, both of whose parents were murdered. Now, of these 40, more than half of them are under 18. So they're 3 teenagers. And 18 of them are 13 years old or younger. Now, the youngest ones are with family members. And as we have been hearing, all of them are undergoing trauma that we cannot even imagine. There was a story recently on television in Israel about a 6-year-old child hiding her 3-year-old sister, in a car. So, and this happened in Sderot. So and the level of trauma there, especially among children, I mean, it's just, as we know, it's years and years, and it's much worse now. So there was a 6-year-old with her 3-year-old sister, and she is having this traumatic attack in the car in Israel, in Sderot, on the street in Sderot, and she is certain that there are terrorists that are going to kill her. And so she's hiding her 3-year-old sister. And she sees an Israeli policeman walk down the street. And she calls out to them. She calls out, "Are you Israel? Are you Israeli?" Because she fears whatever adult is walking by, no matter what they look like, maybe there are terrorists coming to kill her again. And this is months after. Obviously, for most people, it's hard to sleep through the night. But there's a level of trauma, especially among the younger children, that is just, it's almost impossible for us to understand. Now, let's move to a more logistical part of this problem. In Israel, when you reach 18 years old, you are considered an adult. If you had been in foster care, if you had been adopted in an adoptive family, that ends at 18. So just imagine this. I mean, those of us who have or who had children who are 18, 19, 20, I mean, those ages are challenging anywhere. You know, you're grown up, but you're not grown up. And these children, they're not taken to any foster homes because they're grown up, they're 18. So they are on their own. And remember, both of their parents have been murdered. So they do get some funding from the government, but they don't have a home. They're also getting a certain amount of therapy provided by the state, but someone has to make sure they go to the therapy sessions. You know, either you know or remember, it's hard enough to wake up a teenager under normal circumstances. But how do you make sure? You have to make sure a teenager, they're eating properly, they're getting up, they're getting dressed. And now they have to manage bank accounts and death certificates and documentation. And there is no one to help them. They have no home. So, Naama, with her finance background, is speaking to colleagues. And they're thinking to themselves, what do we need to do to help? And they decide what we need is, we need a trust fund set up for each one of these children. We want to assure their future. And that's what gives the name to this organization. Assure. And in Hebrew, the word assure also means a tree. We want to give them strong roots. We want to care for them as we would care for our own children. Because, as everyone is starting to realize, after time, people get forgotten. And you go through a year of trauma, and everyone's remembering, and everyone's helping, and everyone's doing. And these older kids are given a place to live. Someone takes them in. But now a year's gone by. And maybe the person who gave them the apartment says, okay, now I need to rent the apartment out. I have to start making a living myself. And we have to move on. And the kids have to move on. You know, and she says it's like getting up from Shiva. It's like getting up from Shloshim. But one of the kids said to Naama, I didn't think it was possible, but everybody told me life goes on. Life goes on. Life is stronger than everything. And we have to move on. We have to find the strength. And we decide, okay, Naama, she decides, okay, we're going to figure out how to do this. So they started talking to lawyers and accountants and all kinds of people. And they found these kids, figuring out who they are, what they need. And then they also wanted to coordinate and see which other organizations are involved, because there are other organizations in Israel that care for orphans that they lost one parent, orphans that they lost two parents, and the government also wants to get involved, so they make sure that they're not duplicating any efforts. They're not overlooking anybody, but they're also not duplicating, so that it's coordinated. And they have to raise the funds. This is all raised funds. So you think to yourself, well, it must not be too hard to raise funds for kids, Nebuch, who are orphans. But the truth is, people are tired. And they're being asked to support so many good causes. And there are lots and lots of very important causes. So someone said to this woman, what happens if I can't raise the money? And Naama says to her, well, if it was your child, you wouldn't ask me that question, would you? So it's not an option. And Naama says that one of the amazing things is that the number of people who have come forward to her and her organization just to help in any way they can to help these kids, to donate money, to raise money, to go travel somewhere to move a dishwasher, people who finish work at 6 p.m. and then schlep down to Be'eri all the way in the south, people who are making food for these kids, private people, companies, discounts for various things, gifts. And she says it's just very heartwarming because we know we have an amazing people here. And I get to meet these people every day. And it is incredible. So Gordis asks, what is the trust fund going to take care of? So she explains, well, it's basically going to take care of the key milestones in life, like the down payment on a house, a wedding, building a family, education, of course, helping to get a job, transportation if they need it. And then there's some money set aside for special talents, like for musical instruments or for sports equipment. There's a gift for the bar mitzvah or the bat mitzvah. And also, the trusts are set up to protect the children. So the money is in trust, and the money goes only directly to the vendor. So if someone needs a car, the money goes directly to the car sale. And at this organization, Assure for the Kids, there is no overhead. There is no cost. 100% of the dollars that are raised go into these trust funds, whether it's travel or expenses, that's all paid for by these volunteers. So Gordis asks, what have the reactions to the families been? Because remember, so a lot of the kids, especially the younger ones, are with families, foster families or relative families. And he says, I could see a family saying, I hear you want to help, and you're being very helpful, but you're being very heavy-handed. You're not releasing the money, right? They're not giving the money to the families. They're giving the money directly for the expenses for the children. So you're not releasing the money, so maybe the families are not so happy about that. And she answers, they're very, very happy. Because for the families who are foster for the younger kids, one of the biggest concerns is that all of a sudden they have more children. Maybe they had 3 children, now they have 6 children. Maybe they had 2 children, now they have 4 children. And these families have a tremendous worry about their own future. How are we going to be able to assure the future, the financial future, not only of our own children, but of these additional children that we're taking care of? Yes, we love them. Yes, we'll take care of them. But how do we afford it? She says there was a child, a little boy, at one of these foster homes who said to the family, "Am I a burden on you? Are you able to afford to keep me in your home?" So she said that they work with an attitude, they develop an attitude called sheli mihabayit, which means it's mine from home. In other words, the money belongs to the kids. It's in trust, but it belongs to them. There's no donor they have to thank. There's no one that they have to send a letter to. They don't have to say thank you. It belongs to them. And this comes because many of the older kids said, we grew up before October 7th. We were givers. We didn't need to take help from anybody. We had stable lives. The idea now that we have to depend on people's donations. So no, they don't depend on people's donations. They have trust funds. It's in their name. Yes, it's protected, but it's in their name. It's sheli mihabayit, it's mine. And she says to these kids, she says, listen, guys, if you don't want to talk to me, you don't have to talk to me. You don't have to be nice to me. You don't have to worry that you have to be nice to me in order to get what you're going to get. You don't have to worry. It's yours. It belongs to you. And one of the kids said to me, one of the kids said to Naama, I pray for the day when I can pass it on to someone else. It gives them a sense that there is someone else with them on this terrible journey. She speaks to these kids a lot. So, the older kids especially, they say, the mornings and the night times are the worst. You wake up in the morning and it dawns on you every day as if it just happened. Before you go to sleep, you try to fall asleep and all you can think about is what happened. During the day, if you're busy, if you're working, if you're in school, okay. And many of these older, the teenagers, 18-year-olds, they have others they have to take care of. They have to take care of a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle. There's no one who's not grieving. Now listen to this. So Naama tells this story. She said years ago, when she was 20 years old, her father passed away. And, okay, it was traumatic for a 20-year-old. Her father passed away. And she said to herself, I exempt myself from going to the funeral of any of my friends' parents for 10 years. I can't handle funerals. It was too much. It was overwhelming. I'm giving myself 10 years not to have to go to any other funerals. That's what she said to herself years ago when her father passed away. These kids, if you think about the kids from the kibbutzim, initially they didn't bury the parents because you couldn't go back at that time. So they were buried in temporary cemeteries, you may remember that, and then later there were funerals for them when they were moved to permanent cemeteries. So she says about these kids during that time, these kids go to these funerals every week. Every week there's another funeral. I say to these kids, guys, you don't have to go. You don't have to go to every funeral. And they say, yes, we do. Yes, we do. We need to support our friends. So Daniel Gordis says, That's the thing about this society, and that is what I want us to hear today. First of all, let's talk about Naama. She is a successful woman in the world of finance. She takes upon herself to assure the lifelong financial needs of these kids. And then, in addition to this, you see an entire society of people who have stepped up to the plate and they say, I have to do this. And then these kids, and you say to these kids, you don't have to go to that funeral. Maybe it's too much. And they say, yes, I have to go. I have to support my friends. That is the quality of this society that's going to get us through. So Naama talks about birthday cards. So they send birthday gifts to these kids, and she writes a birthday card. So what are you going to write in a birthday card? You write Mazel Tov, happy birthday, to these kids. So what she writes in the cards is she says, listen, to be in your life, I have to say I admire you. I admire your strength. I admire your courage. I admire your resilience. I admire you. And here's what she finds, and this is really incredible. Every time someone does a kindness for them, someone helps them, you see their heart heal just a little bit. Now, they're going to miss their parents forever. They'll be traumatized forever. Yes. But they also know that their parents would like them to go on living and to be happy and to build a future. And that's the way. That's the way to beat the bad guys, is to make it good. That's the way. The way to beat the bad guys is to be good. So I just want all of us, just this morning, just for a few minutes, to see the ways in which people in Israel are helping others to recover at least as much as is possible. It's an unbelievable gift. And for everyone else, for all of us, we should be inspired by what people like Naama and so many others are doing. Finding these ways to help these children heal piece by piece, bit by bit. That's what we're doing. We're beating the bad guys by doing good. Mi ka'amcha Yisrael. God, who is like your nation Israel, a unique people in this world. And that's how we will get better, piece by piece. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.